Brad Griswold, and I'll be your moderator for this program where we cover the Simsbury Fly In and Simsbury Airport. I'm joined here by Mark Cigal and by Bill Thomas. Both of these gentlemen are on the Simsbury Fly In Committee. Bill, you're also the airport manager for Simsbury Airport. So before we get into the airport and the flying, tell us a little bit about what does an airport manager do?
Basically, it's like running a business. We have marketing, we have bills to pay, we have fuel to buy and sell, we have members to take care of. It's a pretty comprehensive business.
So does anyone get paid at the airport? Do you actually have any employees?
We're very unusual as airports go in that we don't have any paid employees. We're all volunteers. We're all members of the Simsbury Fly In Club, which has existed for many, many years and which operates the airport.
Well, my understanding is that the airport has been around for longer than the Simsbury Flying Club. So both you gentlemen have been around the airport for a while. Tell us, how did the airport come into being? What do you understand the history to be of Simsbury Airport? A lot of people, I'm sure, drive by it, but they don't know, how did it get there?
Well, we don't know a whole lot about the very early days. We do know that the airport started sometime in the late 1930s. And we know that during World War II it was used as a training field. And very interesting, it was also used as a test facility for the Pioneer Parachute Company, which still exists in Manchester, Connecticut. We have some old photos of airplanes dropping big pallets and dummy parachutists at Simsbury Airport. And it was really not until the end of World War II that the airport started to boom and become a commercial enterprise.
Well, take us back to that time. Bring us back to just after World War II ended. You got a lot of pilots, coming back from overseas. They had just been a whole bunch of wartime activity at Simsbury Airport. What would have been like? What would a day have been like back in 1945, December 1945?
Actually very busy. As you say, there were a lot of people that came back from World War II that were pilots and that wanted to expand their piloting into the commercial ranks. We had the GI Bill, which paid for many, many people to learn how to fly, and so Simsbury Airport was really booming. It was also the base for some dealerships because after the war there was a pent-up demand for private airplanes, and a number of dealerships came and went, not all successfully, I would say, in the years after the war.
Well, what were the early days of aviation like? Because now it's fairly regimented. You have, there's steps you go through to get your pilot's license. Was it the Wild West of aviation right after World War II, or was there a little bit of structure to it?
Well, somewhere in those years it started to get more and more regimented. It used to be in the old days that you could jump in your airplane and you could fly almost anywhere in the country. There were no radios to speak of. You didn't have air traffic control. But that all changed during the period after the war and became much, much more regimented. Mark, I will reveal, is a former American airline pilot, so he can tell you all about the system now. It's much, much more regimented than it used to be.
Very complicated. But as short a time ago as 1974, I was a very young college graduate, myself and three other gentlemen, I'll call them for lack of better words, we purchased an airplane. We bought ourselves a Texaco touring atlas, and with 3 credit cards, we toured the whole United States. So we made very few radio calls because we didn't really know how, but we all had a general understanding of how to fly, and we had our pilot's licenses, but we
clearly you figured it out well enough if you're still sitting here.
Yeah, we survived. So that was the wild, wild west for me. But
so obviously aviation has changed over the years. How did Simsbury Airport change with it?
I guess the best way to answer that question is to say that it became more and more commercial. There were maintenance bases established there. Some came, some went. I think I mentioned earlier that there were a couple of dealerships that came in. Just as an example, there was an airplane called the Republic CB It was an amphibious airplane that was built by the Grumman Corporation after World War II, and there was a CB dealer at Simsbury Airport. And of course there was the business of teaching people how to fly. So it became very, very commercial. And it still is to some extent, although now, as I said, we're run by the Simsbury Flying Club, which is an all-volunteer group. We do have businesses at the airport who teach folks how to fly, and there's a maintenance base there as well. And we have some tenants at the airport too, who are just regular business people, and they use the airport as a rental space for work.
So obviously we're here to also talk about the fly-in. As Simsbury grew and changed, 28 years ago this year, there was the first fly-in. All right, first of all, what is a fly-in? For everyone out there, I'm sure they've been to a car show. They have it's a collection of cars, go around and see stuff. Well, we have a car show there too, I understand. But what is the fly-in part of the fly-in and car show?
Mark, you want to answer that one?
Well, that's an opportunity for people who have airplanes to fly in somewhere and have a meal and socialize. It started out at Simsbury very informally, as you know.
But how big was it?
I think the first one, there were only 4 or 5
Something
airplanes.
like that, right?
Yeah.
Right.
That sounds fairly informal.
Yeah, and as the years went by, it grew in popularity, and we started getting more sophisticated with our advertising, and it's obviously a ways for us to support the operation of the airport. We've become quite dependent on that.
Which brings me to another question. Obviously, you depend on volunteers to run the airport. You bring in income from what sources of income does the airport have? How do they stay afloat?
Well, first of all, understand that there is no governmental funding of any kind into Simsbury Airport,
you guys,
from the town, from the state, from the feds. And we're
so
very
not
unusual
a single governmental dollar?
Not a dollar. So everything that keeps us in operation, we have to raise the funds ourselves. So we do that by selling memberships in the club, by tie-down fees for the folks that have airplanes based at the airport, by selling fuel, in which we make a small profit, and also by renting some of the space in the airport to tenants. We're a nonprofit, and so the goal is not to make a profit,
right,
but to make enough so that we can stay in operation, and we do.
So, but do tie-down fees and fuel, do they cover all the operating expenses? What does the fly-in play into that?
That's major. That's really our biggest single source of revenue. If it were not for the fly-in, we'd have to have prices that were very much higher than what we charge just for tie-downs and so forth. So
basically what you're saying is the fly-in is basically primarily the reason why the airport can remain in existence.
That's right.
So as the fly-in grew, how did it change? How did it evolve? I mean, at some point, someone had to have said, "Boy, this thing's getting pretty big. We should probably do something with that." When was that?
Somewhere around 10 or 12 years ago, and I can't be exact, it got to that point, and we could no longer just run it on a casual basis. So we began to have a fly-in committee. We began to have people that were assigned specific tasks, like getting volunteers to help, or selling food, or preparing food. And that organization has gotten bigger and bigger as the years have gone by, and as the event's gotten bigger. It could not be done now without a great deal of organization. We try to keep the event informal, but it takes behind the scenes a great deal of organization.
One of the things that has led to a huge resurgence in the public's eye is the EAA, Experimental Aircraft Association.
What is the Experimental Aircraft Association?
Well, it's a national group, actually a worldwide group of people that get together. They build their own airplanes.
So from scratch, or kits?
There's many different kits out there, probably hundreds of different kinds of kits, from amphibians to biplanes to any kind of plane.
So you're talking someone in their garage with a with a drill and a rivet gun is putting together a tail of an aircraft somewhere right now?
Exactly. It's a little bit more sophisticated than that, and there are certain requirements and guidelines that you have to meet, but the general public is now becoming widely aware of the fact that they can do this, and it's fueled a cheaper way for the average person to get into aviation.
Do you get a lot of those home-built aircraft coming into the fly-in?
The majority of the planes that come to these events are kit-built airplanes.
So it's basically like a car show. Think of it as a car show where most of the cars are cars people have built themselves.
Exactly.
That's pretty incredible.
You know, the general public, you see one Cessna, you've seen them all.
Right.
There's
For anyone who doesn't know, Cessna is the high-wing aircraft. It seats about 2 to 4 people, depending on the size, and it's got engine on the front.
Yeah, it's basically a manufactured airplane.
Right.
My airplane, I could build the same kind of airplane that you built, but I would paint it different, and that's a big draw for the public. They like to see all the different variations, and there are lots of variations.
Let me jump in and say also that the EAA sponsors people that restore airplanes as well, and we get a number of very old restored airplanes that come to the event. We've had airplanes that date back into the 1920s, and they look as good or better than when they came out of the factory because people have lavished such care on them. So that's a major part of EAA as well.
Very, very interesting aircraft to look at too, to see how aviation has progressed.
Yep.
Speaking about sort of historical things, I understand you also get a lot of historical cars arriving at the event. Now, obviously, it started as a fly-in. Where did these cars come from?
Well, somewhere around 10 or 12 years ago, I think we started to say that and went on another track here, but we had rain for the event. And for whatever reason, some cars showed up that were hot rods or that type of vehicle, and it turned into a little bit of a car show because obviously the cars could get there and the airplanes couldn't because of the rain.
How about how many came in that first year?
I don't know, but a very small number, but enough so that the folks who involved said, hey, wait a minute, this is kind of a nice combination because people that like mechanical things tend to like both cars and airplanes and boats and so forth. And one thing led to another to the point where today we have a huge number of cars that show up. Five or 600 cars typically show up of every kind you can imagine, including old fire engines and ambulances. And
So give us some examples of like some of the cars they're going to see, or just for example.
The funny answer is that we don't know, and that's part of the enjoyment of the event. You never know what's going to show up. It could be a Rolls Royce. It could be a Ferrari. It could be a muscle car. It could be a Model T.
You know, I saw some pictures of some pretty old tractors there one year.
Yep.
Military vehicles as well. There's a large variety.
Yep.
That's pretty incredible. So I also understand that there's quite a few special features at this year's fly-in. Can you just give us sort of an idea of what's going to be there?
Well, let me mention a couple of things that are very, very special this year. The first involves a very important aviation controversy. Everybody knows that the Wright brothers were the first to fly.
Okay.
Well, that may not necessarily be true.
Really?
There's a gentleman named Gustav Whitehead who was from...
Not quite as easy to pronounce as Orville Wright.
That's right. He immigrated to this country in the late 1890s, was an engine builder and model maker, and he built a number of airplanes that he hoped would fly. Well, guess what? One of them, it is claimed, actually did fly a couple of years before the Wright brothers flew, in Connecticut, in downstate Connecticut.
So we're not talking just a couple of months. We're talking
a couple of
2 full years.
Now, the group that is sort of sponsoring the Whitehead historical argument is the Connecticut Air and Space Museum, which is based downstate, and they will bring to our event this year an actual replica of the Whitehead aircraft and it is claimed that that replica has flown. And they're going to do a seminar at our event about the historical controversy. So this should be very, very interesting to anybody that's interested in history or airplanes.
Now, I also understand that regarding that historical controversy, the Connecticut State Legislature actually passed a proclamation saying that Gustav Whitehead was recognizing him as the first in flight. And a very well-known publication called Jane's, which is the preeminent aviation guide, is basically claiming the same now to fuel the fire.
That's right, and however, they are opposed by the Venerable Smithsonian Institute.
Why is this?
Well, the answer to that question depends on who you believe, but the argument goes that the reason the Smithsonian displays the Wrights airplane is that they agreed contractually to say that it was the first airplane. And so they have
In order to
what
get-
is argued to be an entrenched position.
So in order to get the right flyer, they had to sign a document saying that we will always say this was first in flight, apparently.
Exactly.
Interesting.
So time will tell. But
So people can actually see a replica that
Yeah.
in theory has flown
Yep.
at the fly-in this year, and that's pretty cool. What else can we expect to see?
One other thing that we just got word of a couple of days ago is that we will have a full-scale mock-up of a light jet airplane called the Cirrus Vision Jet. And it's the first time we've ever had anything jet-related at the airport. They are hoping, the Cirrus people are hoping, that they will be able to bring back the actual airplane next year. But meanwhile, it looks exactly like a real airplane. You can get
I got
into
a chance
it.
to see some pictures of this. To me, it looks like the Lamborghini of the small planes. I'll tell you, it is a hot ticket.
Absolutely.
So that's obviously important. I've never seen a jet really that small, quite like that before. Is that fairly unique?
Yes and no. There was a movement that started probably 10 years ago called the very light jet category of airplanes. And some of the original designs didn't work out very well or didn't work out economically, but there are now, I think, 3 or 4 that appear to be feasible. And so this is hopefully going to be a burgeoning of the small jet market.
Now, I understand one feature hasn't been confirmed yet, but there's a chance it could come. You want to tell us about that?
Well, that might be the Terrafugia. Is that what you're thinking of?
I think so.
Okay. Terrafugia is a car that converts to an airplane.
Or is it an airplane
and
that
backwards.
converts to a car that converts to an airplane?
Yeah, this is something that people have dreamed of doing since, I think actually before World War II, but right after World War II there was quite an effort to do this. And the efforts were successful in some cases in that they flew, but they couldn't economically justify production. The Terrafugia, though, is a real deal. It's really flown. There's a group up in Massachusetts with a lot of MIT folks that are involved in financing and building this, and it looks like it's going to really pan out. And we're hoping that we'll get it at the event this year.
And I've attended in past years, and I've seen Rhinebeck Aerodrome. They're coming with planes. Are they coming again this year?
They're coming again, and they're bringing a SPAD, which is a World War I airplane, and they will actually fly it in.
Now, one of the special features at this year's Fly-In is the formation flying demo. And Mark, I believe you have a fairly intricate knowledge of that. You want to tell us about your involvement and what that is?
Well, we call the group the Yankee Clippers. There's 4 or 5 of us who have home-built aircraft, and just another form of discipline of flying is formation flying. 2 of us in the group were military trained, myself and one other. We used to instruct formation flying. So once we got our airplanes built that are very capable of this type of flying, we wanted to bring it to the public and just show them that, here's another method of flying, It is quite breathtaking to see.
So explain to our audience here, what will they see in a formation flying demo?
Well, the formations that we fly are military formations. The airplanes are approximately 3 to 4 feet apart.
And about how fast are you going at the time?
150 miles an hour.
I'll tell you what, I'm on the highway and going 60 miles an hour, and I'm 5 feet away from the car, and I'm still just clenching up a little bit.
Well, keep in mind, this isn't the first time we've all done
Fair
this.
enough.
They're all highly trained. And we do various different formation patterns that they would see. We also do memorial flybys for fallen veterans or people who have passed away. At their memorial service, we'll do a flyby with what we call a missing man formation. It's an honor for a military comrade.
What else can we expect to see at this year's flying?
Lots and lots of airplanes.
About how many on average?
At any one time, there are probably 100 to 120 airplanes on the ground.
Holy cow.
We have many businesses that exhibit or have booths at the airport as well. Ben and Jerry's will be there selling ice cream.
Now you're talking my language.
We have folks that sell T-shirts. We had a call just yesterday from a gentleman who uses old beer cans to make artifacts out of. He will be there selling his artifacts, and I could go on, but you get the idea.
So
a lot of local crafts.
Toys and T-shirts, hats, everything.
Women's apparel, everything.
I understand there'll be like one set up for like cool tents for your tractor and stuff. And of course, there's going to be kids' activities too there. Correct?
Yep. There's a kiddies land where the kids can jump in to
a bounce house?
A bounce deal with the balls.
You know, I may
and
have to take
everything.
advantage of that. I might be a little big, but you know.
And you heard me mention the EAA. They also have a big tent set up there with a lot of activities for younger children.
And so the EA kids activities, those are all the kids activities at the EA tent. They're all free?
All free. They can come and learn how to rivet. They can learn about the Young Eagles flight program.
Just real quickly, because we're short on time, what is that?
We give individuals, children, ages 8 to 18, a free ride in an airplane. Also, they get certificates and pictures and
learn about how an aircraft works and all that.
Yep.
And so they can sign up right at the EA booth at the flying?
Sign up right there, and we usually have 2 to 3 events.
Those are free as well?
Yes, they are.
That's fantastic. All right, let's get into the critical details. Okay, so I'm going to the fly-in, and I got to go park. What am I going to run into there?
We have lots of parking available. We charge $5, and part of the proceeds goes to a local Boy Scout troop.
Oh, that's a good
so
cause.
That benefits those folks as well. We don't charge admission at the gate. However, because of everything that we'd said earlier here, we are a volunteer nonprofit organization. We would request a donation if the folks attending feel like throwing something into a hat. We also have handicapped parking and restrooms for handicapped folks too. By the way, Brad, I wanted to be sure that we mention that the car show portion of the show is coordinated and organized by the Porter and Chester Institute, which is just a major support to us to get all this done.
That's fantastic. Also, food, there's going to be like fried dough, ice cream, burgers, hot dogs, taffy, lemonade, all sorts of that good stuff is there, I'd imagine. What are the hours? What are the date and hours for the fly-in, we should mention?
That's going to be September 15th. Airplanes start flying in at dawn. People are welcome anytime 7 to 8, and it'll go until 3 or 3:30.
That's excellent as well. And I understand, just as the airport runs on volunteers, so does the fly-in. So if someone's interested in volunteering, is there a website they can go to, or where they can get more information about the fly-in?
Yes, actually, we have an airport website, but we have a separate website just for the fly-in, and it's just Simsbury Fly In, FLYIN, after the word Simsbury.com, and it tells everything anybody will ever need to know. It also, as you say, it has links into forms that can be used to fill out if you're interested in volunteering or setting up an exhibit.
So obviously, Fly In coming up on the 15th. The rain date is the 22nd. It's hugely important to keep the airport going, because if the airport's not around, I mean, you see airports closing all the time. I saw on the news the other day there's on average one closing every week. And they end up, half these airports, they end up building a condo complex in there, and because it's this big open space. And so if you were to say to anyone out there who wanted to get involved and help preserve the Simsbury Airport, what would you say to them?
I would say, first of all, it's worth preserving. It's an asset that if it ever goes away, it's not going to come back. These things, once they go, they're gone. And every airport that goes means that those airplanes go to some other airport, and so we have fewer and fewer airports that have more and more airplanes. And if you think the skies are crowded now, that's the potential trend here. So we love Simsbury Airport, and we hope that it'll stay open forever.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, gentlemen, it looks to be a great event. So just to remind everyone again, Simsbury Fly In is on the 15th. With a rain date of the 22nd. Classic cars, if you have a classic car and you want to bring it, there's a $10 registration fee, I understand, which covers the cost of trophies. If you want to bring a plane in, if you happen to be a pilot, you can find more information on SimsburyFlyIn.com with the arrival and departure procedures. No charge, I hear, for planes arriving, and a small fee for if they want to be judged to win a trophy. Plenty of food, lots of kids' activities. It sounds like a great day, gentlemen.
It's a great family event.
Yep.
So encourage everyone out there. First of all, thank you for watching. And just remember, Simsbury Airport's a community resource. You don't necessarily have to get involved, but it doesn't hurt. But if you want to help, simply come to the event, enjoy the activities, buy a burger, buy a hot dog, enjoy the day, and don't forget to visit SimsburyFlyIn.com. For this program, I'm your moderator, Brad Griswold, Mark Cigal, and Bill Thomas. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.
Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.